generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking about the 5 worst movies of 2023. This is just our opinion. It is not based on Rotten Tomatoes or based on the number scale that we did throughout the year. It is just looking at our list of movies and thinking, yeah, that's our top 5 worst of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my number 5, and then Sarah will see what she has for her 5 and just keep on going and have a fun conversation. So, my number 5, believe it or not, everybody, is a Disney film. And I felt okay about the movie in theater, but ultimately, if you look at it, what made this be a part of my list is the disrespect it gave to the original. And that is, my number 5 is The Haunted Mansion. I loved the original Haunted Mansion, and I thought they did a really good job with the original, with trying to replicate what was on the ride. When they went to make this new version, they basically thought, okay, what did the original have, or what did the original not have that was part of the ride? And we can put that in our movie, and then the rest of it's going to be different. And I just kind of thought that was kind of a dumb way to go about it, because really the only new thing was the Hatbox Ghost. That's his name, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. And all the different weird things that they were talking about throughout, like how there was an emphasis on like CVS pharmacy or Amazon Prime or whatever they were talking about, that was dumb. And so I feel like there was a lot of weird things that were going on that took away from the focus of the Haunted Mansion. And so between all those things, it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, the promotion or promoting of various products and stores throughout the film, that happened a lot in that film. Like at least 5 to 7 different things they were trying to promote or throw in there. And it's like Pepsi, like it just was so weird. I totally see why that's on your top 5 worst films. I feel like there were some that were a bit worse than that. So it's not going to be in my top 5, but I agree it definitely wasn't one of the best. My number 5 is going to be Barbie. I had such high hopes for this film and was really excited, going up to this and thinking it was going to be like a great Barbie and Ken adventure. And there were some parts of it that I thought were fun or cute or whatever, but the amount of political handling on this film was so astronomically high. I felt like you couldn't just ignore that portion of it. Like I know when we were talking about the best films of the year, I had made a statement about, sometimes you have to kind of ignore that portion of it and stop looking for that just to be able to just enjoy the film for what it is. I feel like there was no just ignore that part of the film for this, because you'd have to ignore like almost the entire movie.
You can't ignore what's being pushed in your face.
Exactly. It really wasn't what I wanted, and more importantly, I feel like it wasn't what was advertised. And so that is what really killed this movie for me. That's my number 5.
That's actually my number 4, so I would just give my little 2 cents too, is very much what you said. I will let you guys all know, growing up, my sister had like the Barbie movies. I think there was like a Rapunzel one and, whole bunch of them. I didn't mind watching those movies with her. Like they were, they were almost like off-brand Disney movies in a way. And so like going into this movie, I kind of hoped that they were going to have some sort of, like you said, Ken and Barbie adventure like what I saw in the past. Even Toy Story did better of a Ken and Barbie story. I think it was in Toy Story 3 is when they started becoming a thing.
I think
Um,
so. If not two. I think it's three.
I think it's 3. I definitely know it's not 2. But anyways, I feel like there's so many other people that did it better in the sense of a Ken and Barbie adventure, which what we were looking for. Once we kind of realized, oh, that's kind of political, but I'll ignore it. And then at time and time again, it's like, that's political, I'll ignore it. And it's like, we're at the drive-in, and this is the first movie. We gotta stay because we want to see the second movie, so we're just gonna power through it. And it just wasn't for us. I know a lot of people loved it. That's great. I don't think any less of anybody that enjoyed the film, and I saw it as a political thing. It just wasn't for me. It's one
Yeah.
of those movies I will not watch again. So yeah, that was my number 4. So what's your number 4?
My number four was the Meg 2, The Trench. This movie was ridiculous. Okay. It it had a good concept, I think, and parts of it were definitely fine. But when they started throwing in the land creatures and stuff, and it went from potentially believable of crazy sea creatures under the sea down deep so far that nobody's ever seen them before, like that could actually be a legit thing, to all of a sudden now there's like prehistoric creatures on the land. It just
Well, those
what?
those creatures on the land came from the water, like when they broke the
And they can just breathe
whatever.
underwater and breathe the air.
Hey, I'm not a scientist. I'm just telling you what happened. That's all I'm saying. But
And
I
just
agree that,
and be able to walk perfectly on land because they were walking and running on the land.
and they're also because I think we arrived like slight. Oh, what it was is we went to go get popcorn at the drive-in, and the movie had started when we were walking to the car. And we missed a little bit of the beginning. And so we saw the cool
Like
shot.
maybe 2 to 5 minutes.
I get that. Hold on here. We saw the shot of the Meg like take out the T-Rex, but before that shot, those creatures were shown on land. I
Mm.
saw it twice because I saw it with my dad. So when I saw the opening sequence the way I was supposed to, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, sure, but it really wasn't what I wanted. I would agree the Meg 2 wasn't nearly the best movie. It didn't make my top 5, but I would say number one of the big things that bothered me is that, this is a violent film, but there was no blood. And I know from listening to behind the scenes and stuff, that was actually a thing that they made sure not to have, and I thought that was stupid. Um,
Yeah,
it's
that why would you have
It was something to
no
do with
blood in this
the
type of movie?
culture and the people that had their money on this, like their hands in the pool of this film, and it was it was a whole thing that was politics.
You know what
Um,
that sounds like is a movie not worth making.
well, if you look at how much the movie made, they would argue otherwise because the first one did super well, and they had to make a second one because of it. And I think they're even thinking about a third one based on how well this one did. So don't know what
What
to.
was your number three?
My number 3 is one that we alluded to in our best of films. My number 3 is The Expendables 4. Sarah did not see that movie. I went with my dad, and it was atrocious. The movie itself, like cinematography, was awful. Um, I don't want to try to give away too many spoilers here, but it's definitely apparent in the media that they're trying to replace Stallone. And so that became a part of the film too. Like it seems like some sort of passing of the torch, and when you look at the people that are left on screen, it's like I don't really want any of them to hold the torch. Maybe Jason Statham because he's super cool, but what are they going to do when they kick him out too? Because I think what's happening is like the first one did really well. Second one did okay. It still made money. The third one, I don't think it made money. And so what they're doing is, okay, where can we cut the budget? And that's with their big name actors. How can we bring in some young blood that we can pay less, but is still cool to see on film and get away with it? And not only that, I mentioned in my discussion that the cinematics with all the action sequences look like they were straight out of the PlayStation 3. And so when you take that and you put it with the actors situation and actresses, it's not good. It's a terrible, terrible film. And I know they tried to do like the passing of the torch so they could make more movies. They need to stop. It needs to be over. If it's the same thing with like uh that's another movie I forgot about. I don't think it would make my list, but the Creed 3, it's the same thing
Oh,
that
yep.
happened with that movie. It was the person that basically started the project and had the heart to bring it to life, being Stallone. You can't take the heart out of the project or else you get crap, and that's what's happening. And honestly, I felt that way about Creed 3 as well. Um, and I feel that way about Expendables 4. So, end of rant. Sarah, what was your number three top worst movies?
My number three, I really thought this is what you were alluding to earlier when you were talking about a live action remake, or I guess you didn't say remake earlier, but when you were alluding to a live action Disney film that's being done again, this is what I was thought you were referring to is The Little Mermaid. I was pretty disappointed in this one. It was one that we saw at the drive-in. We see a lot of movies at the drive-in in the summertime. Just, it's a favorite pastime for us to, kind of go there and whatnot. This movie was so dark, I could hardly see what was going on the majority of the time. And I don't really have that problem with most other films at the drive-in. And so I don't know if it was just this particular film had bad lighting or what. I think part of it is just it's the dark depths of the ocean. It's supposed to be dark. But then if you compare it to the original Little Mermaid and how bright and colorful a lot of that is, even just from the side characters to the coral wreaths around them and whatnot, the sun's always shining, that way you can actually see what's going on. The lack of color in this film was astounding to me. And I remember multiple times during the film me talking to Jeremy be like, I think this is what's happening based on what I'm hearing because I literally can't see anything. And that just drove me nuts. And I've asked other people, because I'll just clarify, I haven't rewatched it since then. I haven't wanted to. But I've asked other people who have watched it, like on Disney Plus and whatnot, was the lighting any better? They have said that the lighting was better, but it still was kind of lacking a lot of color. And that's about as much as I'm gonna say about their opinion because it's supposed to be about my rankings. But I just wanted to put that out there that I don't think it was the drive-in necessarily that was making the movie lack color. I think it's the actual movie itself. Uh, and that Scuttlebutt song, that was horrendous. I hated it so much.
I shall set it as your ringtone.
Oh my gosh, that would drive me
Um,
crazy.
I do want to say, as far as like the light and dark of the film, uh, I remember when the trailer originally came out and there was a shot of like Ursula's place, whatever you want to call it, lair. They actually changed the lighting in the future trailers because of the reception of it being a really dark image. And so uh, I would agree that that transferred over to like the Disney Plus viewing that our friends had and whatnot.
I
Um,
wish they would have had more of Ursula. I feel like they could have added so much more drama with that.
well, at the same time, my one of my biggest critiques is that the ocean just felt lifeless, like nothing was around. There was hardly any people. I feel like I think we came home and we rewatched the original, and there was so many like mer people around. There was life in Atlantica. I think that's what it is, not Atlantis. Um, it's
Well,
just
there was also the scene with not to get too far down this rabbit hole here with this movie, but there was the scene where the sea creatures were supposed to be the band members, and in the live action version, there's no fish playing any of the instruments or anything, and I get that that's not realistic, but okay, neither is Lion King then, and somehow there's a live action version of that. You know what I'm saying? Like I think they could have paid better homage to the original film than what they did.
yeah. I mean, just because, like you said, just because it's live action doesn't mean that they can't have those cutesy kid things. Like, there's no mer people in the real world. There's no octopus women like Ursula in the real world. So it's like, where is that where you draw the line? Is it has to be a human kind of a thing? But uh, even with that, some of the like characters like Flounder and Sebastian, some of those look kind of atrocious too. But I'm gonna digress on that situation. I would agree that it wasn't my favorite film, but it did not crack my top five. I think we're on to my number two now.
Yep.
My number two has the number two in the name, and my number two is The Nun 2.
That was my number two too.
So I rewatched The Nun 1, and honestly, I felt kind of like in between on how I felt about it. We love the Conjuring universe, which is what this is from. And me, big fan of Thaisa Farmiga. She's great. And so I was hoping, coming into The Nun 2, that it would have been a really nice breath of fresh air, just like a whole bunch of these other movies seem to have been. And it did not hit one bit. It was dumb, stupid. It didn't make much sense. And it was probably a cash grab, to be honest.
It was something to watch, I guess, but
Yeah.
it wasn't something that I necessarily was like, what's gonna happen next, you know?
Yeah. It was more or less, when are we gonna get out of here next? Um, so yeah, that's what I have to say about the Nun 2. You said that was yours as well, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm pretty sure our number one is the same as well. Just because there was one film this year that we really didn't like. Um, and it's not because of like what the movie was about. It's just how they presented the material was just so bad. And our number one, because I'm so confident that I know what it is Killers of the Flower Moon, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. Huge names, right? So you think that this movie would be at least within the realm of being an average film. And so my problem with the film, one, it was way too long. Two, they told me right away who was causing all the issues in the town, and I really wish that would have been more of a surprise down the line, because it's like, now that I know, I don't care about guessing. And everything that they showed from there on out was literally the same. Like, someone died, the tribe cried, they comforted them. Someone died. The tribe cried. They comforted them. And then it just rinse repeat for multiple people. And then we get to the end with, figuring out what happened with DiCaprio's character with the jurisdiction and, getting in trouble.
This movie was 3.5 hours long, and I just, even a half hour to an hour into it, I was like, I'm ready to go home. Like this just blows. And it's sad because I feel like the story itself is one that's important. I think it's one that's worth telling. And I'd love to learn more about it from like a historical point of view, but there wasn't enough in this movie to make me invested. It either needed to be way more dramatic or it needed to be way more of like a documentary style. So I feel like the lack of identity for the type of film that they wanted to make is what really killed this movie.
Yeah, killers of our expectations. I would also agree that I went into this film wanting to learn, and it wasn't just us that didn't like the film. I'll kind of put it out there. My dad asked us to go see the movie. Like he saw the preview. We hadn't seen the preview. And so like my dad was like really excited to go see this movie. And by the end of it, he was right in the same boat with us and that, you know, it was super long, um, boring. It took too long to get, not only took too long-ish to get to the point, but the thing is they kind of told us the point way too early as well. So maybe it just felt like it took forever. Also, I make sure to like go to the bathroom, take care of everything before the movie so I don't miss anything. This was the first movie in a long time that I was like, oh, my cup is half empty. Let me go refill it so I could take a walk. Like I did that intentionally in the movie because I needed a break. Just because the movie was just so dry, so boring, and so drawn out. And so I think it's fair to say for us that our number one worst movie that we saw in 2023 was Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep, I would agree.
All right, well, that's our top five worst movies of 2023. Sarah, do you want to give us a reminder of the top five that you said?
Sure thing, Mr. Jeremy. My number five worst was Barbie. Coming in at number four, I got the Meg 2, The Trench. Number three, The Little Mermaid. Number two, The Nun 2. And number one, Killers of the Flower Moon.
And my number five was The Haunted Mansion. Number four was Barbie. Number three was The Expendables 4. Number two was The Nun 2. And number one was Killers of the Flower Moon. It's kind of funny how ours landed with a handful of similarities, even with the same rankings, because we did not look at each other's lists. But we did experience the same movies together.
Most of them. I did not
Most.
see Expendables.
This is true. If you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified about more of our movie talks. We've got tons and tons of movies ahead of us that we will be talking about here on the channel. So stay tuned for those. Drop us a like if you liked the video and drop us a comment letting us know your top five worst movies of 2023. Do you agree with us? Do you not? Let us know. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.